Here's one of those spots that had a bunch of little ones, and you can see they're doing a bunch of bulldozing work around it. And some of the more famous ones
Well,
right
the
there.
Nile River is very much the same with the pyramids there too.
Right.
If you look along the Nile there, the pyramids, same. So it has to do something with water conductivity because in the UK it's the same.
That was called the Iran-Contra thing there. But if you
Oh, another
play your
one. That's the same exact thing we're seeing being replayed here. But like, who are we substituting the countries for now?
this time, it would be the Zetas, and it would be Mexico.
Okay. Thanks for joining us tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. Another day of celebrating breath on this beautiful blue planet. Thank you so much for joining us for the Civilization Cycle podcast. We're broadcasting every Thursday night, 10 p.m. to midnight. So welcome, everybody. Thanks for joining tonight. Ransom, take it over. I see a glorious snowpack in the background.
Yeah, that's Sierra Blanca, named when the Spanish invaded there. And then for decades, it didn't have any, I'd say through the 90s, it didn't really turn white anymore. And I remember I think I was in 11th or 12th grade when they were telling us, yep, you're never going to see snow on the mountain again. It's a thing of the past. And, well, it covers every couple weekends now. And winter's coming. They're already opening up the ski resort up there. So if you see that really white side there, and then there's a little strip of forest in it, that is the Apache Ski Resort, the Inn of the Mountain Gods. So they're rolling on like normal.
Deep statement. Go back into that. What do you mean end of the Apache gods over there? What?
Well, they call that it's the inn of the mountain gods because
the inn. Gotcha.
Yeah, it's a big old casino where you can go waste all your disposable income, and go skiing and bet on the horse races there in Ruidoso. Ruidoso is right next to that, so that whole area had a massive forest fire, and then they had burn scar flooding that flooded out the whole town. But thank goodness you can gamble there because they'll retain all that money pretty quickly.
Do they use it on the roads? Oh yeah.
Yes.
Betting on the ponies, go for show every time. You can usually just drink free all day if you just get those 3 horses lined up to show. But that's just gambling, man. That's drinking for the day.
Right, and they also have
and eating too, shall I say?
Wild horses running around.
Wild horses dragging me away. Oh, wait.
No, they told us that, but if you just live down here in the valley, all you have to do is every time we have a little bit of moisture come through. Matter of fact, I think it's lightly snowing up there right now. We just had some torrential rains out of nowhere just dump on the desert here. But in the higher elevations, that's all sleet and snow. So they're happy about it. The ski packs are going to be open this year. Despite them telling you global warming, it's getting harder and harder for them. And that's the whole reason that they knew that was going to happen. And they changed over to climate change is so no matter what happens, no matter what kind of dramatic event happens, it's because of you. Something that you did in your life is, accumulatively affected it. I think what they know is we are going to go into, for all intents and purposes, an ice age for humans. And I'm not talking about the old kind of ice age, that you would think of. But what I mean is just cold enough and snowy enough to, hamper the effects of having a high-tech economy with food on delivery and all of that stuff. That all stops when you have, severe weather. And I would rather have severe hot weather than severe cold weather because cold weather's death.
We're supposed to protect the rainforest, I got to save the damn toucans or whatever.
Well, the best way to do that is to cut down 100,000 acres of forest there, or 10,000 or whatever it takes to squeeze in a road there. And then when you get it all built, have it get burned down. It is funny because the same thing is happening. What you're getting to see that's being highlighted in Brazil is happening in Mexico through the Yucatan, where they're putting up new high-speed rails and highways and stuff, and they're constantly coming across archaeological sites, and they just pave right over it. They say they're trying to, save the forest for the people that live there. The people that live there want to get on the high-speed rail and go to the city and buy products. So there's a conundrum. The same people that want it saved and are being supposedly saved by these programs are the same people that want in on the, the 21st century of technology. They want to go and they want to buy things and they want to travel. So, the government's going to do what the government's going to do, and they had already planned that. So it's really easy to switch ideas with them. So, like in the Yucatan, there's a lot of people against what they're doing. They're clear cutting forests so they could set up these highways and rail system. But at the same time, those people want to be modernized in the, the first world along with everybody else. They want to go shopping and they want to buy food on demand from different places. So you can't have both. There has to be some kind of, middle ground where you save the environment at the same time as living in it and building it. And what's really weird is why they don't look back to the civilizations that lived there before, which would be the Maya. And we're now knowing that the whole Mayan age is probably 5,000 years or more older than they thought it was. So that whole area is covered in ancient civilizations that for one reason or another disappeared into the jungle. The jungle grew over it. And it is not great farmland. A lot of people think, oh, well, all that stuff's growing there. It must be great farmland. Well, it's not, because there's no soil. There's no soil in the rainforest. Every drop of water and every beam of light gets used by the native plants. So there is no soil to grow food on unless you're growing the type of food that comes with the jungle. So if they find a way to have an equilibrium where they're utilizing the forest without destroying the forest, which would be the best way forward. But unfortunately, a bunch of little wars are breaking out between governments and locals and cartels and different stuff. So the cartels
Is it
want the
about the
money.
food, though? My
It
question
is.
is
Yes. It's
not about the oil fields or about the diamond fields. It's about the field, literally the fields.
yeah.
And who
So
controls the food production and the food delivery out? Whoever controls the food this point forward wins. That, have you noticed the pattern that's emerging across the planet from giant militaries taking over one of the largest grow zones in the world, Ukraine,
right.
to what you're talking about in Mexico, up in somebody's 5-acre papaya farm? Same, but different. It just macro, micro, whatever.
Well, there's a lot of upset feelings because the government wants the money from those avocado fields, but so does the cartel. And so now we're seeing stuff. I've been seeing news out of Mexico about landmines being placed inside of the farms. So when
What?
people go out to, do their daily work, boom. Now, this is only going to increase with our skirmish that's going on. I'm sure you saw what was happening in Mexico, right there in Mexico City, where you had people going in and spray painting, vandalizing, and but those are the cartel people. Those are, and they're not. They wasn't Gen Z. I actually watched a whole live stream from somebody down there, and they were going around before things got, crazy or whatever, and they were talking to all kinds of people. Yeah, well, the people
Crazy.
want the government to take the US's help and get rid of the cartels and not be a narco state. The government sees it differently. They don't want outside help, and they're saying they can handle it, even though it's a really upside down world down there. And now, whenever you're going to start seeing fighting going on between government and cartels, and the new cartel maps have come out, and the map is different than it used to be. So some shrank and some grew a lot. But the problem is they don't just have their hands in drugs. They have their hand in corn. They have their hand in avocados and papayas and anything else you can grow. They want their hand in it, and they want that money. And so something's going to have to happen, whether or
Wait,
not
now,
we're
what
involved
if
or
you
not. I don't know.
what if you overlaid those maps, like the gang control areas and then the agricultural output areas of Mexico, and see how those overlap on some sort of who's going to control what resource coming out of food product, food resource coming out of there, and the gold as well, or any types of minerals that are there. But overlap that map, and we're rewinding the clock back to fiefdoms and kingdoms. All right,
Yeah.
it's starting to fragment like that. So the whole world's going like this, and you ask yourself, why at this moment would it be going like that? Then we see this Economist magazine. What is it? It's a fragmented world, where exactly what's happening in Mexico. Everything is going back to kingdoms and fiefdoms. It's breaking apart. China shall do the same. Could America? That's the question. To to fragment because people are so disgruntled, or there's power play and controls this area more? What
This,
is? Oh, look at the that bright
this
yellow up there.
is actually an older map. So this yellow area would have been the Juarez cartel, and that shrank all the way down to right around El Paso. And you got this Sinaloa cartel, and it's shrank also. So what's big now is this what they call the Jalisco New Generation Cartel, and they show it as this small blue. But now it takes up half the Yucatan and almost all of Mexico. So they're the major force. And those are the guys you see on TV with armored trucks and brand new 203s launchers on the bottom of their M4 platforms with their Kevlar vests, helmets, well funded narco military state. So it's actually a little bit, I would say they're looking a little more well funded than the Mexican federales are at this point. So we know that all of these cartels are intertwined. And this is actually an old map. Let me find the newer, updated one. But this is all changed because of infighting between the cartels. And so things are about to change a lot. Really, there's only two players left other than little small city state cartels that are still existing. You really only have the Sinaloa, the Zeta, and the New Generation there. And the New Generation has basically taken over the whole of Mexico. So they're the fighting force there now. So what you see is blue on this map has now taken over all the red, purple, the pink, the white areas, most of the Baja. So it's looking like we're going to have a lively combat zone going on there. And the US government wants to back the Mexican government, but the Mexican government is too tied up into those cartels to accept the help.
Yeah, let me kick on my map here. There, we got the share button. So it looking a little big there. Oh, that's why it's 30. Okay, so what do you see on the screen? This is the agricultural production areas for, get it, alcohol. So think about that. Okay, if you're going to go, what is generally consumed more during unusual and, I don't know, tumultuous times, do you think?
Corn.
And alcohol.
Yeah, and a lot of these.
So think about controlling the alcohol regions, and especially in Mexico, if you can control those regions where they were making tequila and the agave, don't think about just like a pear tree, a pear plantation, or an apple plantation, or an apple farm, or whatever. Think about something that's also growing straight out of the earth there. It doesn't matter. It can be turned, that agricultural product can be turned into something very, very, very high value. And if things were to go the way it seems they might with some push from the global elite, then a lot of regions are going to get cut off and they're going to go more regional. So if half the United States were to get cut off of the Mississippi River, would they be able to, all of East America wouldn't have access to alcohol from Mexico, right? But the West would. So it's just going to fragment, and a new market's going to find itself to fill in that vacuum of all that alcohol that would have been supplied from the East Coast is no longer coming. So it's going to be from somewhere. And then I'm sure the prices will rise for 3 or 4 times. But look at that. Tell me about this agricultural map. Like 2 is just what you were talking about with that Juarez cartel there. But what about, going down into this map, into the mountainous areas around like the mezcal production areas, the Durango, that sort of thing, like 5, 6, 7, 10 down there. Can you explain it? Oaxaca's 14, way down south there by Guatemala. Yeah, see, there it is in Chicago. Yeah, that's exactly the same way. So they're going to be able to control the avocados, and they're also going to be able to control the mezcal tequila production as well.
Yeah, that's basically what I said when I still had myself turned off. I'm sorry, but yeah, this is a more updated map, and you can see all of that blue right there is where the Sinaloa and the CJ cartels are fighting, and that's all of that agricultural area that you showed on this map.
That up.
Right there.
Yeah, there it is.
See,
so overlapped. I wish we could pull those side by side.
Well, you can blink it there. Oops, wrong button.
Yeah, it's not as efficient as looking at them directly next to each other.
Yeah, so I could look at. I'm pretty familiar with it. So all of this green, yellow, and brown.
All the green down at the bottom. Right, that's all that. Which cartel?
That would be the New Generation cartel. There, they have just taken that over away from the Sinaloa. So it was Sinaloa, and they're showing this little area of dark blue. that's their base of operations for their rival cartel. So the whole thing is being shaken up, and the question is which part of the government is backing which side. And it seems, just from my own opinion, looking at the news feeds and watching the one particular cartel start winning over the other one. And if you remember, the Sinaloa had a little help from the CIA, especially when we were creating the NAFTA idea and all of that. And you had Vicente Fox and George Bush in office. They closed down the border. Everything went real violent. Before that, you could just go into Mexico, like senior citizens routinely would go to Juarez, buy their prescriptions, buy clothing. It was a very peaceful place. It was a very easy for Americans to go shop. But as soon as they started clamping down the border, basically, the Sinaloa cartel just, exceeded in power, and they pretty much took the whole of Mexico. Now that's reversing, and you got this new cartel, like I said, they are well funded. Somebody, and if you really do a little digging, you can track it right back to this thing called Fast and Furious.
Wait a second. Are you rewinding me all the way back? I wouldn't say to the Reagan years, but shortly thereafter. That war on drugs is exactly the same copy paste garbage we're seeing again right here, right now. Exact same players, exact same countries, just the clown faces have changed.
Yeah.
I cannot believe they're trying to rerun the same script again 40 years later. But that's exactly what they're doing. Exactly.
Well, think about this.
The gun running and thing down in Central America too, Fast and Furious. Like, come on, really? Nobody went to jail. Everybody protected everybody. It was the same thing that had run through this deep state and everything for, I mean, they red-handed caught selling that were confiscated somewhere else. Like, come on.
Well, if you play your cards right, and I think that was called the Iran-Contra thing there. But if you
that's the same exact thing we're seeing being replayed here. But like, who are we substituting the countries for now?
Well, instead of the Middle East, Central American countries,
switch over this time.
This time it would be the Zetas, and it would be Mexico.
Okay. Which one?
I mean, it would be Mexico, because during the Obama administration, we ran Fast and Furious, where we gave the cartels, at the same time as our government was saying, you don't need those AR-15s, they were handing them over the military grade style M4s, which is a better weapon. They were handing those over to the Sinaloa and the new generation cartel so that they could fight over each other. And during Bush, it was Sinaloa was favored, but then this new cartel got favored. And you can see where the money was well spent on the equipment. That the Mexican federales are not even equipped that good.
Who can guarantee us the food production? That's who gets the support. It's kind of going that direction, right? So see who is getting the support. Agricultural areas, whoever controls that's going to, if I could, Ransom, I'm going to jump over to this new, this trans pipeline here. Oh no, did I just say trans? I cannot believe it. I did say trans. The Trans-Caspian pipeline is exactly the same thing we're talking about in Eurasia. Like, everything's fracturing over there as well, into factions within countries as well. So what we're getting is the news here. So it's Venezuela, it's Mexico breaking off. America, they want a civil war. They got a California here, New York, everything's breaking up. China, they're disgruntled at the best. Everywhere across the planet, it's looking like it's sort of breaking. Fracturizing is the best thing. But here we are. Here's the Trans-Caspian pipeline. And I would like you to look. I just want to get your opinion here. All right. So this is the competition here. In other words, like, when I look at them, I think they're old school politicians. They can get things done. They're not part of any wokeism BS. These guys are crisscrossing entire continents between their nations with pipelines, rail lines, ports, and highways. And this bit right here that they're onto is this new pipeline that America is desperately trying to stop, but then they have to accept it now. So it goes from Caspian State, this is in Baku, which is right next to Republic of Georgia. Because remember when I was doing this grand solar minimum research on some of the survival spots that I thought that had the best odds of riding through this massive climate shift would be Republic of Georgia and Sumba Island in Indonesia. Now, just if you go east of Georgia, Republic of Georgia, you come out into the Caspian Sea. See, that's the interesting thing about this microclimate. It's got the Black Sea on one side. It's got the Caspian Sea on the other. Mount Ararat, the supposed where the ark came down after the floods and everything released from there. 8,000 years of continuous wine production. So you know something's very stable there, because wine vines are finicky. Grapevines, if you ever grown them, they're finicky. Now you have to have a stable climate to be able to grow that. So between there, now move over. Now that you move over to the right or to the east, you get Baku, and it's a huge oil field. It's very, 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 very sour crude, dude. They got Himalaya size, like mountains of sulfur stacking up after they do their refining process. Just the first step to get the sulfur out of it, because it's like thick. I wouldn't say tarry, but definitely got to go through the first filtration, for a better term, to get all that sulfur out of it before you can even like send it anywhere to be used as crude. It's like gets a discount because it's like that. Anyway, they have a huge amount of natural gas, which is the regular point. So it punches in and it goes all the way to China. It goes through Azerbaijan, also the Caucasus, pops over through Astana, well, south of Astana.
I don't know if you can talk about Trans-Caspian extensions on YouTube.
Yeah, Trans-Caspian corridors too. Give me the corridor, dude.
Damn. There's a whole pipeline.
Getting sick. The stakes. Well, the stakes are big. Oh yeah, that's why so they've actually done something called reversing the flow. So before, Russia was the big one that popped everything out. And the direction that the pipelines had to flow, because there was no pipelines in place to allow a different flow before. Right. So they had to go a single direction to move the gas. Now, with all this new building of an incredible amount of new pipelines, they're crisscrossing. They're able to send gas back in different directions they never could before, because there's a full another set of pipelines next to it. So what they had set up originally as single directional flows on that, they've crisscrossed everything into, you can send it any direction you want to right now. You're no longer bound by the rules of it was only one and you had to go this way. So everywhere can efficiently send gas to every other place. The problem is now they're in I wouldn't say a bidding war, but they're going, well, I can give it to you like 1 cent cheaper. Here's the thing with the BRICS. They're all trying to become rich, but they all have all the resources, and they're all trying to sell the same resources at the same time in order to get more money to be part of this new Belt and Road Initiative, whatever BRICS alliance that's coming out, the non-Western order of things coming up for the reestablishment of what will be over there this time, not here. The wealth is moving from here over to there, what will be what you will remember as it was here back when it was very rock solid. That's being set up right now over there. If you rewind the clock 50 years and you think about how people behaved, how society was structured, law and order, law maybe, however you think it might have gone with that, but people obey that. Things were stable. It ran at a certain rate. That was, you could never get away with anything we're doing today, even 20 years ago. You imagine dropping some of these freaks that are in cities now 50 years ago. Oh man, the citizens would have been kicking them down the street, not just the police. That was totally unacceptable behavior. That's all over there now. It's like, we're here to do business. We're going to grow this economy to be the world's largest, compete with the US dollar, and knock it off, knock Europe off. And we're going to take all the resources and we're going to trade in gold, and we're going to settle between ourselves the difference. If I take 100,000 tons of iron ore and you give me like 20,000 tons of nickel, and we keep that as an even trade, and then there's like a few $1,000s left over, we'll trade in gold to make the even difference flat, zero. And there'll be 20 different locations on the planet that I could pull the gold within 24 hours and get it in my hand. There's a whole repository of gold depositories are setting up around, from like Hong Kong to Dubai, Shanghai, Astana. There's a network. Oh, UAE also, United Arab Emirates. Dubai has a place. Switzerland has one. There's a whole bunch of gold repositories that these new BRICS aligned nations are sharing. So you don't have to carry anything across the borders. You can go there and you have a deposit certificate on the blockchain, no less. You can rock up to another location and pick up that physical gold. That's the whole thing about this trading, is gas and lumber and iron ore. That's great. But being able to trade the gold amongst these nations to have a non-debased currency across the entire network of where the rail lines are going, where the ports are going, where these natural gas and oil pipelines are going, they're all interconnecting as well with a gold settlement mechanism. See, the Bank for International Settlements with Basel III, they claim, well, they even say U.S. currency is a tier 1 asset, which I'm like, that's insane. But okay, play with me. I guess we're back in kindergarten, but the gold is now a tier 1 asset as well. They're setting up an entirely new system based on what was the previous system. Think about 3,000 years ago, 4,000, 2,000, 1,000 years ago, we all used gold and silver. Right? They're bringing us back to the same system. Somehow there's this disruption where they were able to insert fiat here for a few hundred years. Everybody only used to use gold and silver before. There was no paper. You know, we tried that in the 1820, 1850s, 1840s in America when we all had our own banks. Everybody issued their own currencies, but it was all backed by silver, those tradable notes, right? So we were always on a bimetallic system where silver and gold were used. You only unless you had some like rubies to trade or something, it was always gold and silver, some copper. But now we've come off into paper, and now we're going back to gold and silver and copper and resources again. So we went through that loop here. So we're moving to an entirely new system where the old things just aren't going to work anymore. Like if you noticed in the West, we haven't repaired our infrastructure. Like if they knew there was a cascading event coming, you wouldn't repair your infrastructure. You'd move it. So here is, and you can see the middle corridor, the direction from China. And then if you go all the way really far east or very far to the right of the map there, Nanjing, that's a huge, gigantic port. I mean, one of the biggest in China. And I don't know this one, Lianyungan. And then, Yiwu. There's that Yiwu down there on the right. That's a center place where it's a wholesale marketing area. Yiwu. Anything you want to ever get in a wholesale produced in China, you would go down to Yiwu down there. And then Shenzhen, that's where all the high-tech stuff is produced. Pearl River Delta, that area, and then come out into Hong Kong. Chongqing, that's out more west toward and Chengdu, those are getting way out west there. Chengdu's in Sichuan province. As soon as you go a little bit west of Chengdu, you come into the Tibetan Autonomous Zone, which is tightly controlled China over the Buddhists that are in those mountain areas. And then as you head west, you come into Nepal and over to Bhutan. But here's the thing, when you come a little bit south, this is the old southern route here. I want to try to, the reason I'm saying, if you come from Chengdu and you go a little bit south, and I hope you can see my mouse here. If you come a little bit south, you bump in Myanmar. And once you come out of this region up here called Sagaing, then once you get down, it gets lowlands again. So you just have to go from Chengdu through, I wouldn't say super steep mountains, but you got to cross one range and get over to northern Myanmar. And once you come down, that's called the Southern Silk Road. Like that was a well-established thing. Like when we were fighting World War II and we were coming through Myanmar to try to punch through China, they were using the same routes. Like when they called flying the hump, that was flying from here the same right over to Chengdu. They were trying to go from North Burma over to Chengdu, or anywhere in Burma, actually, or Burma, Myanmar. That was the hump, flying over that one range you'd have to traverse. So you drive a truck up it, you come all the way down, and then boom, you're in Myanmar and you're down on, or your camels or your horses, whatever, through history. And then, that's the traditional Silk Road up to Urumqi and what's that, Jinghe. Then you come out, and where do you suddenly come into Kazakhstan after Uzbekistan and Turkmenistan? You get down in here, Astana. This is the new capital. This is your new New York. This is going to be the new Wall Street, for a better term. This is the center of the center right here. If you are understanding BRICS or anything China aligned, this Astana is the center of the new universe. And you got to look at the sacred geometry and just the crazy design. You thought Washington, D.C. was designed in a design. You have seen nothing until you look at Astana. Really, truly, it is the most geometrically sacred geometry engineered city, I think, on the planet. From the inception to make it as such, for the combining of all nations to come in and trade here. It's the center of the gold hub of trading amongst in Shanghai too. Now follow that through Kazakhstan. Follow those, and where is it going? Right there. That's the Caspian Sea. That first water body. You come to the west there, and that's exactly what it is. Heavy sour crude resides there. They got to do filtration process. But then you're in Azerbaijan, and where are you going through? Tbilisi, right there. Some of you might say Tbilisi, but it's really pronounced Tbilisi. They don't say the T. So when you go to Tbilisi, that is Republic of Georgia. And if you go just south of that, that's Mount Ararat, where the damn Ark was. So you see, and then if you go even further south, we come into Göbekli Tepe. You know, if you're looking in that area of the world for stuff to look at, Göbekli Tepe is right there. The site of the Ark coming down on Mount Ararat's there. Some of the oldest, most incredible in Turkey. Are you kidding me? How old is Turkey? Just itself. And then you go down to Edom, you know, I mean, whoa, this is ages like incredible old. You're down in Mesopotamia there again.
That's the World War III map. There's your World War III battles right there. All of that through Azerbaijan, Georgia, Turkey, all of that stuff. Right where those rail lines go in there. And I was just looking at, you know, because I'm ADHD there. That rail line curves around and goes right through where all the pyramids are at in China too.
Yeah, I've been to those pyramids. If you could, and I'll tell you where I went to. I went to a fair few of them out there because I was hanging out in Chengdu. I was working over there after I'd studied over in Xiamen, and went out west there. China pyramids, they're out like Xi'an
Yep.
and Yuanyang, where the original
on screen. I have them all mapped out there.
capital was. Oh, there we go. I got a whole bunch here for you. If you
Yeah.
let me pop back on and share a screen again.
Go for it. Yeah, all those blue dots there are pyramids I found on the whole line there by the river.
Okay. Yep. You see where it's going with that. So I will share the actual images with you. I'll see if I can mention a few areas where I was here. Yeah. So outside Xi'an, you get all this is the first ones here. They don't even, I forget the name of them, but they're right outside Xi'an. Like a lot of people go here. So able to climb up on the top. There was kind of a green fence going around there. So don't climb. You got to realize, damn, this is back in what, like 2003 or something like that. Further back. Okay. So this is what the pyramid right here, that's this one. They call it a tomb, but it's really the pyramid. So anywhere you see like these tombs where there's a name tomb behind it, at least out west, going further out this direction, and they stretch for, like you saw that map with Ransom there, those dots. It's not like one or two. They stretch in the line for like 200 miles.
Yeah.
Emperor Huang, like Huang Di, like the first emperor. That's why they call it Huang Di, which means emperor, because Emperor Huang, being the first, was buried right there at the head of that. Like the head of the snake of that energy line that rifts through the crust that they all identified there, that there's something way special here. Yeah. And this is what they all pretty much look like. They're flat topped like this. You're not going to get the exact what you see in Egypt. These are earthen pyramids. They're what they call tombs. And this is a perfect one. But the ones I visited never had this like gigantic staircase on it. Perhaps they had put that ad later, but here you go. This is what, you know, aerial views. This is what our pilots saw. So speaking of the hump, remember when I was talking about the hump? Like when they flew the hump, they saw an enormous amount of these pyramids from this is an old, probably like World War II photo. Like, look how many small ones there are that would have definitely been deconstructed and used for building materials or actually to fill in the land somewhere. Like all the small ones are gone. Like the only ones that you would see today are like those four. And the one at the top right. And then there, that's what would be left. There'd be nothing else left for sure. It looks like a circuit board almost. And when you start to look at the ancients, like how they would use these energies, and you know, that if I didn't tell you that wasn't pyramids lined up in China, you would think that was possibly a very close in on a circuit board, or we're getting down into literally close to the atomic level or something.
Yeah, and not only that,
all of them are flat like that.
Even the new Google Earth maps, most of them all, show that they're either constructing on it, or they're digging up around it, or they're planting farms all around it where it blends into the environment. See, watch this one. I think this is the one you were showing with the walkway right here.
But see, they all look exactly the same. That's the thing. Like once you see, like when I first got there and I was cruising around, I was like, oh man, I wanted to climb every one. But then they all started to look the same, right? But one thing that was unique about it is everywhere they excavated, there is a museum next to them.
Right.
And like there's some amazing museums of just for that relic right there. So they would excavate it out and there would be a single museum of that one right next to it. Okay, we pulled all these thousands of objects out of this tomb and we set up a museum right next to the pyramid or right next to the tomb. And you go in there, and man, back then they weren't hiding anything. It was like 2003, 4, 5.
You see how they're all hidden in the farms?
Yeah,
there?
it was all just like right there. Dude, this is super remote back then. Like you might think now, like, wow, we're right in Xi'an. Look at all these pyramids. You can get to them as a tourist. Dude, you had to get a guide to take you out there. I knew some locals, and they took me out there. Otherwise, I wasn't getting there. And then if you go to Yuanyang, which is the original capital outside Xi'an, that's where the oldest ones are. Yuan, Yuanyang, Yang. That's where the oldest of the pyramids are. Gao is another one, Gao. I think it's a Gao pyramid out in Shenyang. But the museums were something to behold outside of these relics as well. So I was just looking to see if I can find, let's see.
Yeah, like all of these downtown here, you'd have to literally be right next to it to see it. I think I've got about 200 on here that are like that all go down the river. Here's one of those spots that had a bunch of little ones, and you can see they're doing a bunch of bulldozing work around it. And some of the more famous ones.
Well, the Nile River is very much the same with the pyramids there too.
Right.
You know, if you look along the Nile there, the pyramids, same. So it has to do something with water conductivity, because in the UK it's the same.
And you see how they have, like you said, they've built kind of artwork and museums around it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's always a museum. Anytime. Oh, that's just the temple gate or the gate to go in through. That's not a museum. That's just literally the gate to go in there. It's grandiose, right. You know.
And then there's
China, man. They're grandiose at the best, dude. They like, you're really looking for like some like over the top opulence, or like, what the hell? That's impossible. That's just a gate. Like, no, dude, that's like a palace. No, it's just the gate to go through. Like that kind of mind blowing on almost everything. You want to go there because it's just so it's.
Yeah, there's so many of them.
Yeah, it's really to the top, man. Like it'll blow your mind seeing just what you think is a simple temple gate is just like.
There's this one that's,
and all this stuff's like 600 years old. They're knocking it together, no nails kind of thing too. Like that big one, right. No nails. And you're like, how did they build this thing? Technologies that shouldn't exist for, you know, again, metallurgy with the maps, with the mirrors.
But that rail line goes right around here by this river too.
Yeah. I was trying to show you some of these maps here. Western, this is Hanyangling tomb here, and I want to show you this mirror.
There it is. That's the one, Hanyangling, right there.
So these are the mirrors that I talked about. Every museum, every place that has a tomb has this little tiny museum or bigger museum next to it. When you go, at least it used to. And they were finding thousands and thousands and thousands of these are mirrors that you're looking at. Mirrors. So the other side's polished, like you would polish brass for a mirror. But this is what they look like on the backside. But one thing I kept noticing again and again and again is you see those nodules that come off of that. Yeah. They were on like every single mirror that was there, like every one. And they all had I would say these two, this one here with the square and this one with the nodules protruding. And then this one circular one was just a singular. That was pretty much those three. You'd see them again. There might be some variants, but generally it looked like a star. Like if you look at that, that's a sun burst, like a sun ray burst. Or is it something that plugs into a circuit board to complete a circuit? Because there were so many of these. Think about them as machine or transistor parts on something much larger.
Well, they look like maps to me. I mean,
yeah, they were all the same though. That's which is really trippy, that they were all the same wherever you went, whatever museum you went to. They all had. This was the number one thing that you would see every single time was this like mirrors.
Yeah, it's really weird how that they've, because I've zoomed in on a lot of them. Some of them look like they've built a building over it. You see, like this one right here, it's next to these two. These are actually one of the two larger ones there. And you can see nobody gets to live really around these. It's all land that's inaccessible, even with it being right downtown next to everything. Here's a really big one.
If you keep people out of the artifacts, you got to keep people away.
Yeah, and you can see here's one I just noticed I didn't mark to the left of that one. That's a smaller one. You can kind of see them. They stick out because of this different tree pattern on it. Even though they tried to hide it, it's all very visible. It's kind of
which one are you looking in there? What's the Zoom one that you were just talking about? You said you didn't know how to pronounce that one. Let me see that one.
Here's a photo.
Oh, Han Hui Di, Liu Ying. Han Hui Di Liu Ying is a mausoleum.
Right now, almost all of them have something, but a lot of them actually don't. So I know that the people like over here, when you go to this
Yeah,
field,
there's so many unnamed ones that, I mean, the famous ones that have a name will have that little museum next to them. Again, it's been a while. It's been over 20 years, so I don't know what they're doing with those museums, but it'd be like one or two people in there, and they were so proud of what they had with the ancient history. So when you go in there as a foreigner, you're like, can I see that one? They wanted to show you everything. It wasn't like you have to browse around and kind of sneak around. They wanted to show you everything. Like, dude, we are the best culture ever. Look how like powerful and excelling we were in technology and like fucking 4,000 years ago. Man, we
right?
were the best of the best of the best, coming from somewhere out of nowhere with advanced mathematics and language and like engineering and stuff. And the Shanxing Dui outside west of Chengdu. Something was there before. That's all I'm going to say. Understand it too.
They had
But
those.
something powerful and advanced was there in advance. So they're so proud to show you that stuff too and integrate it into their own culture.
I just think it's weird because almost all of these pyramids were in association to 6 foot tall guys with braids that had red hair, 6 foot plus, really tall guys. But not only that, they had some kind of magnetic technology where they were taking magnets to try to align these with the cardinal directions. And this is before most of the, I would say, other people kind of moved in. So a lot of these are really thousands of years before the area was inhabited in more recent civilizations. It's kind of like the Ainu in Japan, where they just, they were a people out of place, so they're a lost Caucasian, Caucasoid group. That's what they used to call them. And it's funny because for a long time they didn't fit right into the main of civilization, but with excavations of old Ronin and some of the original samurai, they found out that the Ainu were most of those families a long time ago. So now it's starting to be really popular, it's kind of like in the United States where people seem to, really get happy if they're part Native American now, when maybe if you went 200 years ago, they wouldn't have wanted to be claiming that they had that. It's the same way in Japan now. They're really happy that they can track their ancestry to, before the Chinese phenotype came on the island.